What's up, writers? Welcome to Essay Writing Day. I'm excited. I know you're excited. Let's do it. So, structure sets you free. What do I mean by that? If you've played a sport, you should know that most sports require a play. If there's no play, there's chaos. You have to run a play. If you got to halftime in a football game, and all of a sudden you were like, well, I guess we better try running some plays. That would make no sense. Just like if you started writing an essay, and then halfway through it, we're like, I guess I should choose a structure for how I'm going to write this. What? No. We have to start in the beginning with our structure, just like we should start from the beginning of the game with running plays. Same with writing a story. I could tell you, hey, write a story about anything you wanted. I would bet you the story would be a nightmare. Bet. However, if I said, here's what I mean by a nightmare. There would be dragons and unicorns and the boogeyman, and they would be like fighting it out in this death match on Jupiter, and it would be so weird, make no sense, and there'd be no character development, and there would be no moral to the story. You think that's a good story, but it's not. Instead, if I said, please write me a story about a one-eyed dragon with relationship problems, that is an interesting idea. And that is going to allow you to be creative. And we're going to check out then what structure we are going to be using that will set us free for our writing. Let's check it out. So, to write in a flash, we use a structure and a plan. The plans you already have. Last time, we used a box and 3 bullets to set up what we were going to write about today. It looked like the one on the left-hand side of the screen. Teen activists work in different ways. So that's our plan. Our plan is that thing that's in your box is the main idea of your information essay. You are going to teach about one of these aspects that make up teen activism. So teen activists work in different ways. Main idea, you'll introduce that in your intro. The bullets beneath it, those are your body paragraphs. So if we had a sandwich, let's think about this differently. If we had an Oreo, a cookie, and we have the chocolate top and bottom, that would be our intro and our conclusion. Now, in between those cookie paragraphs that start and end it, we have the cream filling. That's our body paragraphs. So these bullet points is the cream in our Oreo cookie sandwich. Some teen activists work together in small groups. This is one part of how teen activists work in different ways. The next part is some teen activists work alone. Another part of the middle. And our final middle paragraph or body paragraph is some teen activists work as part of a large group or organization. And that's it. That's our structure and our plan. Our plans will write it this way, and our structure is that we have a 5-paragraph essay. Don't worry too much about all this extra, what do I put in the intro, what do I put in the conclusion? This is our bare bones essay. We're going to make sure that we introduce this. We need to make sure at some point we say that teen activists work in different ways, like in small groups, working alone, and as part of a large organization. And if that's all you say, that's good for now. We can move on from that. So you, I'm sure, have a different way that teen activists are. And so you'll use that box and 3 bullets to introduce in the beginning. And then each bullet will be a body paragraph. Now, if you were in my class right now, you'd practice reciting that out loud. If you want to talk out loud to yourself, that's fine. No one will know except you, unless you decide to do it on the street, on the sidewalk, in a library, in a restaurant. I might, if you're going to talk out loud to yourself, just do that in your room. That might be the best solution. But I do encourage you to consider kind of planning in your head how this will go, at the very least. The way it should go is kind of like this example here. It says, teen activists, and this is our intro, work to make the world a better place. They do work that takes courage and time. The work is hard. All right, so that's sort of like background information and explaining what teen activists do. It's sort of their definition. My classroom's definition is sort of like that teen activists find problems in the world and try to solve them, which isn't really much different. Then, here is our thesis statement that has the main idea and key points within it. Many teen activists get help in different ways. So that's our main idea, and here are our key points that support it. From adults, from each other, some work alone. Bada bing. Okay? Now, I realize that this example essay isn't quite like my boxes and bullets were. Okay? This is that teen activists get help. My boxes and bullets that I had been working on was that teen activists work in different ways. I mean, it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Some are helping, and some are working. It's just a different word. Now, we've finished our intro. That first body paragraph, you'll notice, is the first key point I listed. I just say, some teen activists get help from adults. Period. Done. State it. Drop it. Don't extend that sentence. Don't start by saying, some teen activists get help from adults. An example of this is, no. Finish with that. Keep your thoughts separate right now. You've made your intro, and then we move on to our first body paragraph, and we're just making sure that we restate our reason, or in this case, our key point. If you want to add on the main idea and key point and say that teen activists get help in different ways, some get help from their parents, period, that's fine too. Because now the next thing is our evidence. For example, use that transition phrase. For example, one teen who got help from adults is Malala. Great. And we're going to hear a bunch more evidence after that. If we continued down, we would see that they used, and let me just say before I even say this, at this point, you could be ready. If you don't want to know anything more, start writing your essay, stop the video. If you want a little bit more, because what I just said was like, yeah, no, then check this out. So we had our introductory sentence. We had our transition into our evidence, and the rest of this is all evidence. I love it. It's all evidence. But notice it follows up with another transition phrase. This shows. And then that transition phrase is setting up our analysis or explanation as to what that evidence is showing. Why does this evidence matter? It matters because we see that her father was actually interested in the issue even before Malala got into it. Dope. They followed up with more evidence. But first, transition phrase, another example. Love it. Okay, now, here's one thing that I have to say. This example could confuse you and me with, because yeah, I can get confused sometimes pretty easily. So for some reason, they decided that instead of keeping instead of keeping this idea of that teen activists get help from adults in one paragraph, they decided to break it up into two, sorted by one is just about one activist and the next is just about a different activist, but still with the same key point that activists get help from adults. I don't recommend that, at least not at first. If this is going to become an unwieldy paragraph where it's 1 page long, then dang, you're a good writer. Keep up the good work. Maybe for now, don't confuse your teacher and just put in one paragraph. But I do like that you were writing about 2 teen activists. You should definitely have more than 1 teen activist for each point. Otherwise, is it really something that some teen activists do, or is it just something that one teen activist does? Okay. I hope that that didn't throw you off. Hope that that didn't make your eyes roll into the back of your head. Because that's it. That's all we needed to talk about. We can leave it there. Kind of. Except one thing. Reminders. Write in paragraphs. Don't bullet point your essay. You make my eyes bleed when you do that. Next, cite examples from the text. Quoting parts of the text. So like articles that you have read. Hopefully you recorded quotes. Make sure that you say where you got that information from. You can do that by saying according to and say who you got it from. Next, be sure to give several pieces of evidence for one point. So notice with that example for the key point that some teen activists get help from parents, we had 2 activists. We already had 3 pieces of evidence. Once you include the evidence, reflect. That's the part where it said this shows. Reflect about the ways that the evidence supports your point. Reflect just means look back and think and see, how is this actually like helping my key point that teen activists get help from their parents? So, reminders, do all those things. And if you want to make sure that you take your writing up to the next level, here is transitions. Over the course of my writing career, I've come to realize how important transitions are. And not just in the world of writing. I am driven crazy when directors of movies do not help the audience at all by using simple transitions. There could be so many ways we transition, and it doesn't take effort, but the idea that you're making your audience work harder to figure out what's going on, I don't understand. You don't have to slap them over the face with a transition, but having no discernible way to know when we've transitioned from one thing to the next, like, come on. Like, so don't do that. I say all of that soapbox sort of thing about movies because just like in writing, we want to make sure we transition well. And these are examples for how we can transition, especially transitioning into evidence. Super important. We want to know that we're introducing like facts, things we've read. So I encourage you to do that. Speaking of doing that, let's get to doing that essay. Let's get it done. While you're getting that essay done, I don't know, I think I might make another lesson. Until I see you next time, happy writing.